Hi, this is Jason Major from Sweaty Hero Comics Bargains, and today we're going to talk about Superman, the Triangle Era, and I want to give you a rundown for those who are unfamiliar with the Triangle Era and why you should buy them. So this one is from 1991, Triangle number 1, and this issue is 1999, Triangle number 39. So let me tell you a little bit about how we got here. So, back in 1986, DC did the Event Crisis on Infinity Earths, which rebooted its continuity. They kept some things that were similar, like the Justice League had been around, and Teen Titans had been around, and now had grown up and all that. But things like Superman was basically anything prior to the 1986 was no longer considered canon. I would argue, actually, for the entire DC universe, anything prior to 1986 was no longer canon to this DC universe. It just was similar to the one that you had read, if that makes any sense. But I digress. So what happened is that John Byrne did a 6-issue miniseries called The Man of Steel, and that kind of rebooted the origin of Superman. Instead of being Superman disguised as Clark Kent, the big change was it was Clark Kent, who had been raised as Clark Kent, so he identified as Clark Kent first, and Superman was kind of more like when a firefighter puts on his firefighter suit, then he's still Clark Kent, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the biggest change that it made to the story, and I love that change. And Krypton was different and everything else with Origin. Fast forward, for the first couple of years, John Byrne was part of the creative team. He was on the adjective list Superman title. Superman changed to Adventures of Superman. And then afterward, and you had Action Comics being more of a team-up book for the first year or so. And then afterwards, Action Comics became weekly. And then fast forwarded to in 1991. This is 1991 Triangle Era 1. So, because there was 3 Superman titles at the time, what they want to do is to have it be that you could have a reading order for the titles and know which order to read them in as they were coming out almost weekly at that point. A 4th title was added, which became Superman, the Man of Steel, and that was added later. And then at one point, they even had a 5th title called Superman, Man of Tomorrow. That was a quarterly title for those nasty, out of 52 weeks, 12 times 4 is actually only 48. So that was cool too. One of the things that strikes me as interesting about this issue is it's a great cover, first of all. This is by Jerry Ordway and Dennis Shank, and Jerry Ordway did the story, and he also did the art. I just want to confirm that. And one of the things that I want to say that's interesting about this issue to me is that Mr. Z, or Mr. Zed, I'm Canadian, Mr. Zed, so he's just like a magician type of guy, but an obscure Superman character. So this is a great starting on point for reading Superman, but it doesn't reboot with a new number 1. You can see this is issue 51 of Superman. It doesn't have an origin of Superman that's retold again. It's just a great Superman story. And it's not even like it's like there's going to be like some life-threatening arc where Superman, something happens really dramatic to the rest of the world or something. It's just like setting up just storylines, and one of the great things about the Triangle Era was that it wasn't just about Superman. It was about Clark Kent, Lois Lane, the Daily Planet, their adventures, and all the supporting cast. And Maggie Sawyer, who was becomes captain later, police captain later. All these characters were introduced, and so this is a great starting point if you want to read Superman. If you can start with the John Byrne 1986, but you could also start with this triangle thing. And it's fun to collect these triangles, which a lot of these are still cover price. This one was only $1.25 cover price, so you could probably find a mint condition one for only $4 or $5 tops. I wouldn't go further than that. And then it goes on for over 10 years. Like this is an example of just it went on for 10 years. Now, just so you understand, and make this interesting, just so you know, things like happen like with the death of Superman. So, for example, Death of Superman comes along and starts that storyline. But even though part 1 and 2 is in 1990, I believe it's 1991. No, 1992. I'm sorry. Then what would happen is the triangle would continue on to the next year and start with a new number one, even if the storyline was like part 3 of a storyline. Does that make sense? So basically, the triangles was how many issues in a year, and then the next triangle would continue on with 1992, starting with 1. So you would continue. That'd be the reading order for the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and this went until they basically decided to get rid of the triangles altogether. But you had great creative teams like Roger Stern, Dan Jurgens, Louise Simonson, and many more. Dave Michelini, Jerry Ordway, many more doing the writing. You had Tom Grummett, Dan Jurgens, who is underappreciated as an artist as far as I'm concerned. John, I don't pronounce his name right, Bogdanov, I think, but he's a great artist. He was an interesting artist too. You had all kinds of great artists doing Superman for a while there. And then basically all these storylines, and most people are familiar with the death of Superman, but then there were other great epic storylines like the Return of Superman. Superman Dead Again is another one I would recommend, where it's after, the whole death and resurrection of Superman thing, and then all of a sudden Superman finds a dead body in the grave, and he's like going crazy trying to prove that he's alive and this dead body is not the real dead Superman. But that was a cool storyline, and that should have been adapted, in my opinion. That would have been easily adapted for a TV show or something. You had Panic in the Sky with Brainiac. You had all kinds of other Superman stories. The Death of Clark Kent was another one. You had an event that went that culminated in a book called Superman Forever. Of course, you had The Wedding of Superman, which was a great, thick 96-page book. There's just so much great stuff. So the point is that you have over 10 years of Superman that you can put in chronological order very easily, even though there's multiple titles. So you'd see Superman Man of Steel, Action Comics, and Superman, and all the other Superman titles, and you'd be able to put them all in chronological order, and just put the annuals in the back, I would say, as your apocrypha, if you want. That's my Superman Triangle era. You can also find it. Trades of the Triangle era are starting to come out now in an omnibus format. So hopefully they will eventually release some sort of. I know they're doing the World's Finest line. Maybe they'll start releasing those in the World's Finest line as well in chronological order too. Otherwise, you'll find a lot of the Triangle era storylines reprint in trades of the major storylines that they have. So there's many ways that you can go find Superman comic bargains, and this is one of my favorite eras of Superman. So stay sweaty and go look for the Triangle era Superman. Thank you.